For the next assignment in the PA450 series, we are going to conduct an expenditure and revenue history analysis. In this video, I am going to be explaining the instructions for this assignment. The learning outcome is related to what we discussed previously in this course, and that is also explained in the syllabus for this class. The goal is to equip you with the necessary skills to analyze budget data and create a basic budget document. Again, this is a simplified version of a process that takes time and requires a lot of data analysis. But that data analysis is something that you will practice by the completion of this assignment. So here's how the assignment goes. Let us assume that you are a budget analyst working at the Chief Budget Officer's office. Your team has been called to participate in a meeting with the Chief Budget Officer. For the purposes of this assignment, we are going to assume that the team is engaged in the preparation of the budget plan for fiscal year 6. So when you meet with the Chief Budget Officer, he wants you to prepare a budget memorandum where you analyze the expenditure and revenue history of the city in the past 5 fiscal years. Your team will receive historic data on the expenditures and revenues of the city for those years. So your task is to prepare an analysis that will be reflected in a story. That story will be the budget memorandum. And to be able to tell the story, you will need to analyze the information and transform raw data into a meaningful story. This is what you are going to practice with this assignment. In this occasion, the budget memorandum that you will present should be double-spaced with 12-point Times New Roman font and with a maximum length of 3 pages. The deliverables for this assignment are as follows. Each team will submit one assignment. At the top of that assignment, I want to see the memorandum. This will be the document where you will be discussing the results of your analysis. Then you will have one appendix that will include the answers to each of the questions that I will explain later. And then there will be a second appendix where each member of the team will include a brief statement, and by brief I'm talking about 1 or 2 paragraphs explaining your specific contributions to this assignment. This is where each member of the team will say things such as, I created the data set, or I analyzed the percentage changes, or the task that my team gave me was to prepare budget shares for the revenue side, etc. So teams will be coordinating efforts in the preparation of this assignment, but I want each of you to be accountable. So in Appendix 2, I want to see your specific contribution to the assignment. Now, what data should you use for the preparation of the memorandum? There are 2 tables included in this assignment. For the purposes of this assignment, you will use only the data that I'm providing you here. The first table presents you an expenditure summary for the last 5 fiscal years. So as you can see, there will be different line items here, and each line item will be associated with a row. And each row will be telling you the amount of money that was spent on each of the past 5 fiscal years. There will also be a table, and this is shown below, with information about collected revenues for different line items for the past 5 fiscal years. So this data is in US dollars. You will be using this information to analyze the last 5 fiscal years of revenue and expenditure data, and with the information that you will obtain, you will prepare a budget memorandum describing your results. So as you can see, you are doing data analysis, and this data analysis that you're conducting is very similar to what you would be expected to do as part of a regular budget plan working for a local government. Now, something that I mentioned in the course before is that during the budget process, each agency or each department will put together their own budget proposal. And then there will be an entity that will concentrate all the budget proposals from all the agencies to create, let's call it a master plan. That master plan would eventually be the budget plan for the upcoming fiscal year, and that will be the budget proposal that will be sent to City Council or to the legislative branch of the government for discussion and approval. For the purposes of this assignment, and to simplify things even further, I am including a table with information for each department or agency in this particular city. So this means that the data is already aggregated. I am skipping one step and presenting you aggregated information that is already organized by department or agency. So what you have on the expenditure side is that for the general fund, which is the largest fund of all, and that's where all the information or all the revenues usually go, and that money is what is used to pay for payroll, to pay for office supplies, etc. Well, this is what we're going to be analyzing here. So this table is telling you that each line item will be the expenditures for each department of this particular city. There's information about other funds, such as the water, sewer, and enterprise funds, but I don't want you to analyze those as part of this assignment. I want you to focus your attention only on the line items associated with the general fund. So you have a table that explains the expenditure side of the budget, and then you have a table that explains the revenue side of the budget. On the revenue side of the budget, you will have different line items. So as you can see, what you are doing on the expenditure side could also be done with the revenue side. Now it is time to talk about the questions that you will need to answer. And this is where teams are going to be facing some challenges. But I want you to think about what you're doing. I want you to think about the data, and I want you to think about the story that you can tell with the data. This assignment is not easy. This assignment is not straightforward, but this analysis will give you a very good idea of the skills that you need to develop for a real life job. So the questions that I want you to analyze are related to tools that were discussed in class before. Let me focus on the expenditure side first. The first question is asking you to use percentage changes to analyze the expenditure trends. So I want you to prepare a table that looks like this. You are going to create a table where you will have the agencies or the departments that I mentioned above. And for each of those departments, you will calculate the percentage changes from one fiscal year to the next. In blue, I'm just giving you examples of how the data for percentage changes should be reported. So you will have each of the departments in the general fund listed here with percentage changes for fiscal years listed here. You will need to enter the data that I showed above in Excel, because once you have it in Excel, you'll be able to use the formulas for percentage changes to transform those numbers into the percentage changes. Once you have a table like this, I want you to answer these very simple questions by using the data that you obtain. The first question is, what do you observe in the table? Try to tell me a story. What would you report to the chief budget officer of the city? Tell me a short story. The budget memorandum, that's where you will be able to tell the story and to decide what information from these answers is useful for the story that you want to tell in your budget memorandum. The second question is asking you about outliers. Outliers are atypical observations that you observe in tables such as the one that you prepare for percentage changes. Let me give you an example. We have a percentage change of 2.4, 2.5, and then we have 6.3. Then it goes back to 2.1 and 2.3. Would you consider this 6.3 as an atypical change or an atypical observation? Imagine that you are reporting something about a line item on wages. So if instead of example you write wages here, this 6.3 would tell you that from fiscal year 2 to fiscal year 3, there was an increase of 6.3% in wages. But in the other years, there was only a 2.5 increase from one fiscal year to the other. So if you think that that's an atypical change, that could be considered an outlier. And when we do percentage changes in budget analysis, one of the things that we're trying to unveil are outliers in fiscal years. If you find them, then someone would need to know, or someone would like to know, why there was an atypical change. So you will go back to the agency to request that specific information. This is how the process goes. The next set of questions are about the shares of the budget. What are the three most important agencies if we take the size of the budget into account? I am not giving you the specifics about how to answer this question because I want teams to think, how can we obtain information about the three most important agencies? What number can we compute to be able to organize my data in terms of quantity or magnitude so that we can list the three most important agencies? A hint that I'm giving you is that you can obtain information if you estimate average expenditures for the 5-year period for each line item. Again, when you have the information in Excel, it is very easy to obtain that information. You will be answering these questions about the shares of the budget. Then you will be converting some information from nominal to constant dollars, which is a term that we commonly refer to as deflating. So using the formula that was explained in class, you will convert the numbers that you have from nominal to constant. And again, this is something that is very straightforward once you have all the information captured in Excel. Finally, on the expenditure side of the budget, I am asking you to calculate some per capita numbers. More specifically, expenditures per capita for the most important agencies, for the three most important agencies. So once you have this information, and this is what matters the most for this assignment, what story can you tell me? So when you reach question 8 in this analysis, I want you to reflect on the numbers and the things that you obtain and the things that you observe in the last 7 questions. And write a paragraph explaining your thoughts. Because once you reach this point, number 8 will be something that could be used to prepare your budget memorandum. The part of the budget memorandum dealing with the expenditure side of the budget equation. The next step is to focus on the revenue side of the budget equation. Here, I am giving you less information than before because I want you to experience the same thing that you would need to experience as a team if someone is giving you unstructured instructions about a task that you will need to complete. But don't worry. First, I can tell you that the revenue side of the budget equation, in terms of analysis, will need to follow the same steps that I just explained for the expenditure side of the budget equation. The second thing that I can tell you is that I will be here as you prepare your assignment in case you have any questions. But I want you to think analytically, and this is the key word for this class. You need to start thinking analytically so that you can convert raw data into a meaningful story about the budget. This is a skill that is highly regarded in the job market. You should be able to tell stories and you should be able to be creative and go a step forward in terms of the data that they are presenting and the things that you can do with this data. So on the revenue side of the budget equation, I am asking you to prepare a table showing percentage changes for the revenue sources, something similar to what you did before with the expenditure side. I want you to analyze revenue shares. I want you to convert from nominal to real. In other words, I want you to deflate the numbers. And I want you to estimate taxes per capita and tell me what you can conclude. This assignment takes time. This assignment has an added challenge compared to previous assignments So I want you to start as soon as possible and do not procrastinate. Because what I want to see when you submit your assignment is a very well-structured budget memorandum that will be telling me a story. I want you to think even about the details. What kind of format would you use if you are really submitting something like this to the chief budget officer of a city? How would the memorandum look like? Would you sign as a budget analyst or not? And most importantly, the content. What is the relevant information from the analysis that you would like to report as a team to the chief budget officer? What do you want the budget officer to know about the expenditure and the revenue history of this particular city? So start working on the assignment and ask me if you have any questions. Good luck!